Hi, this is Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're going to talk about how you can do a few things and figure out what your life purpose really is. I will tell you, this is one of the questions I get asked a lot in readings, especially when it's like their first appointment with me. A lot of times people ask, what is my true life purpose? And usually that means that they're not really satisfied with their life right now. If you think about it, it's like, otherwise you'd be like, I'm doing my life purpose. I don't have any questions. I've got it all together. But it could also mean that they're feeling like they're not fulfilling what they're meant to do in life. So it's kind of like, I'm feeling this desire to do something. I just haven't figured it out yet. So kind of one of the best ways to do that is really get in touch with your inner little child. I know, sounds scary, but it's really not. So one of the things is like when you were a child, what was your favorite activity or thing to do? Probably name a couple of them, but I want you to really think down, like what was like your number one thing that you were just like, I love to, what is that? Climb a tree, color a book, read, play with the grass, play football, baseball, kickball. What was it? What was the thing when you were a kid that you were just like, oh my gosh, I just love this? So first off, my suggestion would be go do that for a little bit. So if it's reading a book, even if it's a childhood book, reading a book, getting in touch with that inner little child, because when we were kids, a lot of times we so didn't care about the rest of the world, because a lot of times what happens is when we're a kid, we're kind of just in the moment. Like no matter what's happening, like we're just enjoying like right now, what's going on in the moment, what's really happening right here, right now. But when we get a little bit older, then people start telling us, well, you can't make any money doing artwork. You're not going to make a living that way. So you're kind of like, oh, I thought I could make a living this way. Okay. So now I have to go be a grown-up. And so then we pick and choose things differently than we did as a child. But let's get back in touch with that little child that really like, oh my gosh, for me, I loved climbing trees. I loved climbing trees. I loved coloring books. I loved to color for hours. It's kind of like everything else zoned out, and I was just like in the coloring book. And even as a small child, I like loved to shade things and loved to kind of like the details of it. Adding other things to the back of behind the picture, that sort of thing. Adding more to it was my thing. I loved. And I loved running constantly. I loved running. And kind of my favorite kind of running was barefoot on the hot pavement. I love that. Like just the feeling of the hot pavement on my feet and just like keeping the pace and the rhythm and the beat of the feet, and absolutely was in love with it. And so kind of getting in touch with that little child in you. What is it that you just loved doing as a child? What was it that just like, I love this so much. I love doing this part. Get in touch with that little child. Get in touch, do something, climb a tree as best you can, or sit under a tree. If it's coloring books or reading, kind of read those books and kind of like re-explore like that inner child. What really made that inner child of you really happy will get you in a great spot of kind of like, let me just relax and live into this, kind of reflecting on this of like, what was the thing that I loved doing most when I was a child? And just doing that can kind of help you reconnect with that. Like I said, that carefree little child that didn't care about anybody else's thing, whatever they wanted to do, didn't matter. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to be happy. Kind of the second step is do what makes you happy as an adult. Right here, right now, in this moment of time, if money was no object, what would you be doing? What would you be doing kind of like that would just lift your spirits? What would the thing that you would be doing like, I love doing this? If money was not an object, what would you be doing right now? Money aside, bills away, everything else, kind of keeping in touch with that little child in yourself. What would you love to be doing right now? Hold that in mind. Just kind of think about it. What are there? At first, you may come up with a couple of different things, like I would really love to do this, that. But the thing that you're just like, oh my gosh, I would love doing this. Keep track of that one. The next one is kind of, where do you enjoy doing with your time? Like, what is it that you love doing? If you love working with like kids or teaching people something, or kind of like, what is it that you love doing? Like, oh, I love doing things. Like, both my husband and I love to assemble things. Who knew? We both love to assemble things. And it's almost, for us, it's like cheating if you look at the directions. Like, just figure it out with all of the items out in front of you, all the bag of bolts and all that kind of stuff. Like, just figure it out. Put it together however you think it's supposed to be put together. And that can be really, really fun. Like, what is it that you love doing? Spending your time together. I love putting things together and kind of like piecing different parts together. So I was like, okay, so how can I make that into a business? We're not there yet. Hold on, we're working on it. But so to me, I love to put things together, putting like things together, putting things that fit together. I love or enjoy kind of like getting that connection with other people, other things, and kind of getting them together, like grouped together in different parts. So it's kind of like, interesting. I really love it. I love doing that part. It's kind of like, okay, I love this part. That can be one of those like, yes, I love this. And kind of like spending your time doing that. It's one of those, because a lot of times people always think of like, I enjoy this, I enjoy that, but it's like, what is that one thing that you just like would love to do most of the time? That's going to give you a really big hint at the end of this, like to bring this together. Kind of suggestion number 4 is, if money was no object, like if you had all the money in the world, say like you won the lottery. If you won the lottery, what would you love doing? Like, you don't have to worry about feeding your family. You don't have to worry about making money. You don't have to worry about going to a job, fixing anything. Like, what is it that you would just love to do? And it can be anything. Some people love to travel. Some people, may want to like write a book or do something or go someplace, whatever it is. Like, what is it that you just, if money was no object, what would you be doing? How could you be doing it? What would you be doing right now? Where would you want to go in the world? What would you like to do? That can kind of give you an insight of like, wow, this is something I would really want to spend time with. Because a lot of times it's things that we left in our childhood so long ago we can't even remember. It's like, I don't even remember that. It was so long ago. And some of that can be also like doing things with your family and kind of getting other people's insight. What would we do as a family? How would we do this together? Because a lot of times it's not just like your purpose. A lot of times it can also incorporate a lot of things from your family as well, or friends. It can be like, well, I never thought that we would be working together, but here this works perfectly for us. And then kind of adding this kind of like, what are my true desires? What would I like if money were an object? What would I really make my heart happy? I would really love to see the 7 wonders of the world. Well, that sounds really great. Where would you go after that? That may be more telling, like, interesting. Like, that's an interesting perspective here. And then kind of think about, like, number 5 would be kind of like, what are you good at? What are the things that you're really good at that come naturally to you? What was the natural things that come to you? Kind of like, this is really interesting. And everybody has different ones. Everybody has like a different set of talents, and things that came really easy to you may be really, really hard for someone else. And that's like, wow, riding a bike came really easy to me, but it didn't come really easy to other people. That's a way to like, okay, what is that about that I could bring into like the future, or kind of bring this into something else? This can also be one of those like, what would you just be good at? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those, like, some people are really good at like change and discovery, and other people are like, I don't want to discover anything, I just want to research it, or I want to look into it deeper and kind of like what else is there, and kind of doing that next step. Some people are really good at drawing pictures, where other people are really good at selling the pictures. 2 different talents, but kind of in the same realm. So it's kind of like, what part of this do you really, really like? The next one is kind of like number 6, and it's kind of like, what does success mean to you? And I want to go back to like when you were a kid. Go back to number 1. What, if you were a kid, what would mean success to a child? And I know we always say, like, if I had $1 gazillion in the bank. I understand, but a lot of times there's like different aspects of success. And usually as adults, it's like, I want $1 million or $1 billion, and I want like 4 cars, and I want this, and I want a swimming pool, and all those kind of things. But a lot of times it's what society is telling us that would be successful, not necessarily what I would tell myself is successful. That's an interesting perspective. Like, leave all of the society out there. If you did something, you could say like, wow, I'm a success in this, and focus on that part of it. Like, focus in on like what you consider to be successful, not everybody else's description of success. What is your description of success? It's an interesting philosophy. It's like, interesting. So kind of the next one is kind of, who are your mentors? Like, if you saw someone do a TED Talk or a video on, or interview or something like that, like, you're like, wow, I really love to hear what that person has to say. Who's that person for you? And it could be a tangible person too, like it could be your spouse, it could be your parents or your grandparents or someone else. Like, who would you really just love to kind of like get inside their head and kind of understand it? Because mentors come in many different ways. A lot of times people think, well, it has to be someone that you have to pay for and they're a coach or whatever else. Not necessarily. So this can give you a different perspective of who are my mentors and why are they my mentors? Why would I want to read their book? Why would I want to see their show? Why would I want to see their video clip? What is it that I'm looking for? I'm still searching for in this area. And this can be kind of one of those, like, opening it up, being flexible with like, wow, all the aspects of this person, I would really like to find out about this part of it. And kind of, what are the attributes that you really love about this person? Like, maybe their style, maybe it's their creativity or their inflections in words or whatever it is. Like, what is it about that person that really goes, wow, I just love that person. I love to hear them talk, or I love to hear their insight. That is kind of the best way to kind of like find another piece of the puzzle. I would say kind of the next one is, what do you want your life to look like? I will tell you, as a child, I never thought I would be living anything similar to the life that I have today. It was beyond my dreams, totally beyond my dreams. But it's one of those, what does your dream life look like now? If you could dream yourself into the perfect situation in 6 months or a year, what would it look like? Maybe you want a house by a river or a beach. Maybe you want a house in the mountains. Maybe you want a getaway house for the weekend. Or what is it? Like, what is it that really, what would you want your life to look like? Would you like to pick up and move your household somewhere? Where would you want that to be? What is that place in the world that you're just like, oh my gosh, if, I could do anything in the world, I would want to like, my life to look like this. I would want to have like no pressure, no stress, whatever that is for you. Kind of start thinking about that. And kind of the best way to do that is really, if, like I said, if money was no object, where would you want to go? What would you want to do? What would be your priorities? What were the things that you would really want to take care of? This can be like, wow, this is really interesting. The next one is kind of like thinking about like, what would you like to leave the world with? Not just, and I know a lot of people are like, well, I want to leave money to my kids and my grandkids or whatever else. That's great. But what I mean is, what do you want to be known by in the world? I want, it's one of those, like, I want to be known as someone who brought peace and harmony, or inspiring other people. What is it that you want to leave the world with? That's really important, and really think about that. Like, what are the contributions that you want to make to your world and your society? So people will be like, that's what Ruth left us, or this is what this person left us. Really thinking about those deep down desires. Like, what is it that you would really want to kind of like think about or leave to the world? Like, I would love for the world to be at peace when I leave. I would like to like get rid of world hunger. I would love to do this. Or I would love to be able to play music that makes everybody jump up and down and be excited. Whatever that is, like, think about those things. Like, what would you like to contribute to our world when you're gone? Like, what is that? And next, let's kind of go into like number 10 is kind of like, what is your bucket list? What are the things that you want to create or experiences that you want to have? Sometimes it's having a special car or having a special dream. Like if there was something that you would want to do before you pass, like that one thing that you're just like, I really, 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 really want to do this before I pass. What is that? What is that part for you? What is that? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. What is that part that you're just like, oh my gosh, this would be so great to go to the moon, go to here. What is it? Create kind of like, what would you like to create or do before you go? Before you kind of let this world pass away, like what is it that you would really like to kind of leave the world with? And that bucket list is kind of like, what do I want to do? What are the things that, like the experiences I still want to have in this world before I go?